All right, there we go. We've got everything working now. We are so excited to dive into this training with all of you today, whether you are here live or you are catching the replay. We are going to do a really amazing training for you to help show you how you can build a winning team. And also, I think this is going to be a favorite, remove yourself as the bottleneck in your own business so that you can increase productivity and profits. And removing yourself as the bottleneck is probably one of the things that Elizabeth and I hear the most from our clients and people who we work with, that even though they have team in place, they still feel like, gosh, the reason why I'm not actually growing, even though I have team members in place, is because I'm still doing too much of the work. And I thought when I hired all these people, whether it's 1, 2, or 10, or anything in between, things were going to get a lot easier for me. People were just going to take things off my plate. People were going to come into my business and just know what to do. And we have found that sometimes the business owner actually feels like they're doing even more work, even though they've brought on the team. So lots of times people will stop, they will actually avoid bringing on the team for fear that it's just going to be too much work. So before we dive into all the juiciness of this training, we would love to hear from all of you. If you could just put into the chat, whether you are joining us on Facebook or you are here live with us on Zoom. Hey, Christine. Hey, Tara. Good to see you. So excited to see some of our already existing clients coming on board. We're already coaching them on their teams. If we could see in the chat, what are your biggest challenges when it comes to team? Whether you have a team or no matter what size your team is, what seems to be your biggest challenge with team? If you could put that in the chat, Elizabeth and I can see that, and we will probably have some time to address some of your challenges. And if you want to put your challenge in the form of a question, that's also perfect. You can do that. And hopefully at the end, we'll have some time to answer your questions. So if you're joining us on Facebook, just put it in the comments below. If you're here with us live, put it in the chat. Biggest challenge with team, or what questions do you have around building a team, leading a team, getting the most out of your team? What seems to be the sticking point for you? Awesome, awesome. How to optimally distribute the work among team members. Okay, very cool. Christine, team members wanting to be managers versus doers. Oh, we talked about this yesterday in your session. Yes, lots of times team members come on and they're like, I don't want to do all this admin work you're giving me. And it's like, well, that's why you're here, to take those things off my plate. But sometimes people come in and there are certain things they don't want to do, but are actually required for the job. Not getting things done in a timely manner. We hear that one a lot. Missing deadlines, making mistakes. Okay, great. Welcome, welcome. How to communicate responsibilities effectively, Tara. Awesome, awesome. If you're just joining us, go ahead and let us know in the chat that you're here. And I just asked what might be your biggest challenges or questions you have around team. So if at any point you want to put that in the chat, go ahead and do that. So here's what you can expect from our masterclass today. We are going to dive into 3 main sections, which will be the meat of our training today. So you get to look forward to that. And I also want to share who's a really good fit for this training. Let's start with that, and also what you're experiencing. So number 1, you're in the right place if you already have team members in place. Whether it doesn't matter how many team members, but if you have got at least 1 team member or 2 team members or multiple team members, this training is perfect for people who already have some degree and measure of team already in place. And if you want to put in the chat also, I think it would be cool for everybody to see how many people are on your team right now. Include yourself. So just give us a number in the chat, including you, how many people are on your team. So if you have a virtual assistant or an OBM, online business manager, that would be 2 people, you and that person. If you have someone who's doing social media for you and a virtual assistant, and maybe you have someone doing marketing or sales for you, you've got like 3 people plus you, so you have 4. I know Tara, you've got business partners. So Christine, 3 plus a marketing team. So you've got like an outside agency marketing team. Also, it doesn't matter if your team members are employees or contractors or anything like that. Just consider everybody a team member. Ashley, you have 4. Awesome. Okay, great. Great. So some of the challenges that we've seen, in addition to what you've already shared, number one, I think one of the biggest challenges that we have as entrepreneurs when we are growing to that multiple 6-figure, mid to high 6-figure, even into the 7-figure level, the truth is, the really honest truth is, you can't actually get there and get there in a sustainable way without people. At a certain point in your business, typically around low multiple to mid multiple 6 figures, your greatest asset becomes your team. It becomes the people. And oftentimes what happens is entrepreneurs try to go and grind as far as they can go, as solo as they can be, without starting to put those people in place or the systems for the people to follow. And that's something that Elizabeth is going to talk about today, is that people can't just be expected to come in and do the thing. People have to actually follow a system. So the first thing I want you to recognize is whatever your goals are next year, especially if you have high 6, 7-figure goals, even mid 6-figure goals next year, team is going to be your greatest asset. And oftentimes the entrepreneur feels a lot of pressure to constantly remain super plugged into the business 24/7. Now, if we feel a lot of pressure to be plugged into our business 24/7, in order for it to function at its like basic level in marketing, sales, operations, and client delivery, what happens is the entrepreneur, the owner, or the CEO, whatever you decide to call yourself, you're constantly jumping in and you are fixing loose ends that maybe didn't get done, or you're catching things that fell through the cracks that was delegated to someone else, but now you have passed your timeline. And so you're like, well, I know how to do it. I did it before. I don't want to miss my deadline. So I'm just going to jump in and do it. And there just seems to be this perpetual grind of picking up team member slack, jumping in and doing it when they haven't done what you asked them to do, fixing a lot of the mistakes. Also, something that a couple of you put in here, deadlines aren't being met. So, the question becomes, why am I giving my team member a project to work on, or we have a company-wide project with multiple people working on it, but deadlines are constantly being missed? What am I doing wrong? How do we fix that? Here's what we know that you want. This is why any of us started a business in the first place. It's because we want more freedom, we want more fun, and obviously we want to make a really scalable impact. And we can't do that by ourselves. Elizabeth and I both love words like systems and standard operating procedures and processes, because what we believe and what we also teach our clients, what we have seen is that the more you have systems and processes that are repeatable and duplicatable, number one, your business becomes sustainable. Number two, you have more fun in your business. Number three, you have more freedom in your business, but also in your life. I don't think any of us started our business to constantly be thinking about and running the day-to-day and being the operator all the time in our business, because if that's the case, and that may be where you have found yourself today, you don't actually have time to live a life. Or if you are living your life, you're constantly attached to the phone, or you're checking in, or you're moving things forward, or you can't actually get the business off your mind. And the way I want you to really start thinking, this is just kind of elevating the way you're thinking about your company, regardless of what financial level you're at right now. Just thinking this way is going to be a big game changer for you. Start thinking, if I were one day going to sell my business, if I were going to make my business sellable, what would I need to set up today? What would I need to set up? If someone was going to come in and either invest in my business or buy my business, what would that person want to see? Because here's the truth about someone coming in and buying a business. They don't want to operate the business. No one's coming into a business to buy a business that's being sold because they want to be the operator of it. They want to be the owner and they want to make a lot of money. So what do they want to see in place so that your business is really valuable? Number one, it's you having the right people in the right positions. Number two, it's you having proper systems and processes in place in the key pillars of your business, which we'll talk about later. And those are functioning in a way that is repeatable and duplicatable, so that as team members come in, they're stepping into a system instead of you expecting them to come in and just be a mind reader and like rub, look in this crystal ball or rub the genie jar, and they're just like producing all these miraculous things. So we want to make sure we're managing systems, not managing people. One of the things that we have seen, I'll just kind of give you a little bit of a list here, and you can jot this down and say, yeah, I would probably check that box. Most of you here, you have some degree of team. And so we're going to talk a little bit later about why some of the things you've tried with team hasn't really worked. And I'll just go through that list really quickly. And then Elizabeth is going to go into greater depth on that. Number one, oftentimes what we're seeing is the wrong person was hired for the wrong role. So if you have not had great success with certain team members, it could be because it's the wrong person and they're in the wrong role. Number two, this is a biggie. There's no proper onboarding process in place for the team member that was brought on. In addition to no onboarding process in place, there's no training process in place. And I know what a lot of people are thinking, I don't have time for that. But it's actually going to save you a lot of time if you have the proper onboarding and training on the front end when you first bring someone on, versus just bringing them in and expecting them to know how to produce what you want them to produce. Number three, lack of systems for team members to follow. So then we end up managing people and we end up managing emotions versus managing the systems. Any person can follow a system. And then number four, and this is really getting into leadership skills, I would say the number one problem on any team is lack of communication, because your team is going to be run. It's all based on the top down. So those are the things that we have seen not really working with business owners who have teams in place. And then finally, one of the things that we're going to talk to you about are our core pillars of how you can really build a winning team and remove yourself as the bottleneck so that it's increasing profitability and productivity. Awesome. We've got some more people coming in here. Super. Okay. Before I turn it over to Elizabeth, she's going to dive into our first two sections here, and we're really going to get into the meat of the training now. We're going to take just a couple of minutes to share with you who we are. Some of you may know who Elizabeth is, you may know who I am, but you don't know who the other is. So I'll go first, and then I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth. My name is Megan Huber, and I'm a business growth strategist for multiple six-figure online service-based entrepreneurs who are leaping to the seven-figure level. And I focus primarily on systems, infrastructure, optimizing your client delivery systems, and also helping you build and lead your team, because those four things are absolutely key if you are going to surpass the low multiple six-figure level and find yourself into high six figures and seven figures. Those are the things that really create a sustainable business. In terms of my background, I was a high school teacher before. I have a master's degree in education with a specialty in business education. And I also was a team member on someone's very massive team. She had a multiple seven-figure a year. Got some more people coming in. Coaching and consulting company. I traveled all around the world for 4 years. I was an actual leader on the team. I didn't have anywhere else to go unless they made me the CEO of the company. And I played a role in almost every single department of a company of that caliber, from marketing to sales, operations, client delivery. I didn't do anything with finances. So I didn't play a role in that department, but I absolutely know what it's like to be a member of a team, so that the owner of the company barely has to do anything in the company and it still functions beautifully. And the owner gets to do whatever they want to do with other passion projects, other businesses they want to start, and also live the kind of lifestyle that they want to live. So I do have years of experience being on what I would call an A-level team, and then have obviously since built my own business and have grown my own team. So that's a little bit about me. Elizabeth, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. So I'm going to add one more detail. So Megan is in Florida and I am in Ohio. We have actually been working together in multiple different ways off and on for like the last 10 years. So we know each other. We align very well in all of the methodology and coaching and training that we do. So we're really excited to be collaborating and here today with everyone. So I'm Elizabeth Galprin. I own a business called Peak Productivity, and I'm a business and productivity coach and consultant. So I have been in the industry of productivity coaching for about 14 years. I have worked with companies as small as one, as large as I've done trainings inside like hospital systems. So I've kind of seen it all. I used to be a speech language therapist. So I worked in the public school system in the North Carolina area. I've worked in private practice settings. So I've really had a great opportunity to be a fly on the wall in just about every industry you can think of, every size company. And that has I have really learned my expertise in systems and processes and communication and organization really through the school of life. And so this is one of my most favorite things to work with business owners on, is the expansion of team and finally getting to that place where we've said it before, but we'll use this several times, getting out of the hustle and grind phase, right? Each of you who run a business, you have been in that beginning phase where every responsibility falls on you. You wear all the hats. I've been there, Megan's been there. And so when you get to the point where you can start to spread that out to others, it's extremely exciting, but it's also very scary. And so that's where professionals like Megan and I can be very beneficial in helping you navigate that, so that there's still going to be ups and downs, right? That is the definition of entrepreneurship and running a business, but being able to kind of be a companion along the journey and shorten some of those learning curves. So I am also a mom, a spouse, a runner, and like all of you on the call today, lots of responsibilities outside of running a business, which is why it's so important that that doesn't consume our life and that we remain a person apart from our business. So I'm going to jump in to just talking a little bit more around this idea of the opportunity of building team and growing or scaling your business. So like everything else in life, we can look at things from kind of the glass half empty or the glass half full. I'm a half full person. And this is a experience in a business owner's journey where we can look at this as, gosh, there's going to be so much extra work and so much extra responsibility. And what are the risks that I'm exposing myself to? We can also look at it from the side of opportunity. And so that is the lens that we want to bring. And that we also want to address some of those fears and some of those worries. So one of the phrases that we really love to use is the idea of building a team managed company. And I just wanted to spend a minute or two dissecting that, because it's kind of a broad, it's maybe even kind of a trendy terminology right now. But when we think about building a team managed company, if I could see your faces, I think everybody would raise their hand when I said, when you started a business, you started a business, you weren't just creating a job for yourself, right? So the idea of creating a team managed company is we don't, at the beginning of your business journey, your vision is not 20 and 30 years from now, I'm still doing all the things, right? I'm still carrying the entire load. So the opportunity of building a team managed company is that, as Megan said, you have systems that give you the roadmap for how a business is being run. And then you have people who are implementing and putting those systems into practice. And then you get to be up here, you get to be the visionary, you get to be setting the vision for where you're going. You get to be overseeing and developing the people. So you're up here and the business is running down here. So when it's a team managed company, we want folks in that middle layer, right? We want to be in many areas of our business, 1 or 2 degrees of separation. So that you are spending the majority of your time in your zone of genius. You get to spend the majority of your time creating or coaching, or the piece that is what lights you up, that is what you are here and meant to do, and how you're meant to serve during your time here on Earth. So we want to create this system. Your business is a system. It's a living, breathing system where you no longer need to be the operator. You are increasing the amount of load that gets taken off your shoulders instead of continuing to add more and more to your own shoulders. The other thing to think about here is, when you're growing your business, when you are taking the lead, we use that term because it's about leadership, right? And, oftentimes I will talk to business owners who say, well, I'm not really a leader. Every single one of us is a leader. We're a leader of our household. We might be a leader in our community in some capacity. And if you have someone doing any sort of work for you, whether it's an intern, whether you pay your 14-year-old to do some work for you, you are a leader in your business. As you grow the business, as you bring in more people, yeah, you have to up-level your leadership skills, but that's an opportunity, right? So becoming more of a leader, it's a responsibility, but it's also an opportunity to hand select the people that share your passion, that understand and that buy into your vision, who are going to support you. And they may not love your business at the level you do, but they're going to be close because they're very well aligned with all that you're doing and the direction that you're going in. So, the opportunity to build your A team, to find all those people that you trust, those professionals who actually, in a lot of cases, are better at some tasks than you are. You want to surround yourself with people who are better in those areas that you would define a weakness, right? We cannot all be, it's that term of, if you're a Jill of all trades, then you're a master of none. We want to be the master, and then we want to surround ourselves and bring in team who have their own mastery in the areas that you don't. So this, as Megan said, this is what makes your business have value. This is what allows you to step out and to know that clients are still being served, customers are having an amazing experience, revenue is still coming in, right? The bus is still moving forward to the destination. As a business owner, if you haven't started shifting your perspective yet, one of my goals today is that you start to shift the perspective and say, as a smart business owner and a responsible business owner, thinking about your business or your company without yourself at the helm, thinking about, if somebody else stepped in for me, how would it operate? How well, how smooth? Obviously there will be little bumps, right? They're not you, but start thinking about your business as a separate entity from yourself. That is what is going to help you grow and scale and find the right people. The letting go can be hard, but it is the best decision that you can make. I have a colleague who is a business broker. So she helps business owners who are selling. Then she also helps individuals that are looking to invest and buy. And every time I meet with her, I see her at networking events, we have conversations, she's always talking about the companies that are sold at top dollar are the companies that have well-defined processes, documented systems, and people that are going to stay and be leaders when the owner steps out. So if you haven't been thinking about your business in that manner yet, I really would encourage you to start taking that vantage point. So as Megan said earlier, systems are one of the most essential things, and they're often scary. Often the very creative business owner says, gosh, the process and procedure is what I wanted to get away from, and that's why I left corporate. I really love the concept of you still have to have rules to play by in your business, but you get to define the rules. That's the difference, right? You're not playing by somebody else's rules, you're playing by your own rules, but you need them. You need them to be sustainable, to be successful, and to scale. One of my mentors always used the acronym for systems, that it's any repeatable process that saves you space, time, energy, and money. So it can be the simplest thing, or it can be very complex, but it's repeatable processes that are helping to kind of collapse the timeline or collapse the effort, making things succinct, making things consistent, and saving you in all those areas that are essential to your business, particularly the time and money, right? So with team that has system to follow, team that understands the process, team that comes in and sees, okay, there's a playbook here. I'm going to be good at this game quickly because I've got a script to follow. That's where a new team member can immediately see, I know my purpose here. They get really clear, and I know what I'm expected to deliver. Most team members, there's a reason they joined your team versus going out and starting their own. They want to be guided. They want to have a path. They want to have steps to follow. They're looking to please you. It's not the best word to use, but they're looking to meet the expectations, but they need to know what those expectations are, right? And the expectations, they can change, but when they come in, they need to at least know, draft one, this is what we're working towards. So team's going to be more motivated when there's a roadmap. Okay, they're going to be more likely to step in and initiate, to step up as leaders themselves when you have defined the path for them. And at the end of the day, they're going to last longer. Most business owners, one of the most expensive parts of running a business is the turnover, losing a team member and having to bring somebody new in. And if you've ever been in that environment where somebody trained and they've been here for 3 months and then they leave, or 6 months and then they leave, you know that the weight it puts on everybody's shoulders. So it's so essential that the support is in place up front, that the team member, as you're bringing in new team, that they see that there is a process, and that we're giving support and we're giving opportunity and we're leading so that they stay a member and support you as long as possible. Okay, so I'm going to take just a couple more minutes before I hand it back over. So speaking from experience, so I have been working in this business and with business owners for about 14 years, Megan about 10. And just want to talk a little bit more about like the resistance that we see. It does take time to find team, right? We talked earlier about find the right person for the right position. You have to really know the culture. It's more important that you find somebody who meets, who has similar values, who can envision the vision you're setting for the company. Training the skills is important, but it's not as important as the person aligning with your business. It takes time to find, right? It's not just somebody off the street. So it does take time. It takes time to set up the systems so that when they come in, they have the playbook. So I'm not going to argue and say, oh, it doesn't take any time at all, but it is so worth your time. It's that concept of it slows you down a little bit, but then you get to speed up, right? So you have to be patient and allow yourself to slow down a little bit as you bring in team. Guarantee you 10 out of 10 times when the business owner that we have worked with, when we see them take the time to do this, they speed up exponentially once that person's on board. Sometimes it is hard to train. I remember working with a client a couple years ago, and I observed this, and she shortly confessed. She says, I'm not a good teacher. I am not good at explaining things to people. So I get really anxious when I'm supposed to be onboarding someone. So we worked on that. It's a skill you might have to work on. How do you convey information to another professional? How do you become more skillful at teaching and training someone? It is a skill set, and you can get better. It doesn't matter how old you are or how long you've been doing this. And sometimes there's other people that can do the training as well, right? So it doesn't have to always be you. It is, an extra responsibility, 100%, but again, short term. And I think the concept that you are going to have to, if you're adding to your plate, bringing on a team member, you do want to look and see, is there something else you can take off temporarily, right? Or you have to be willing to put in a little extra time. Valid points, and the resistance is real, but if we let ourselves get diverted by those hesitations, what we're doing, we're just being a little too short-sighted. So we really have to remember, if we're in it for the long game, then this is something that is going to be worth our time, our energy, our effort. And if you are growth focused, it's a part of growth. So a couple of the examples that Megan mentioned earlier, I want to dig into. And if you come off camera, that'd be great, or drop a comment in the chat. Give me a comment if you have had an experience where you have brought someone in, you have hired someone, again, intern, contract employee, part-timer, and it has not worked out. It was a quick, hire and then fire. I just want to see how many people have experience in this business, and it can be in a previous business. Maybe you were a leader in a previous business, and we're not talking about your existing business. Yes, Christine says a few times. Anyone else? Okay, but yeah, okay, so not necessarily quick, but yes, you've gone through the experience of this person is not the right fit, and we have to find someone else. Okay. Yeah, and great point to me. Sometimes it's just a matter of they decide they need to go somewhere else, right? They decide that the path that they're on is not the right path. So in that instance, think of one of those individuals specifically. What do you think it was that, if you had to pick out one, the biggest factor, what was it that resulted in it being not a right fit, not a right match? What was it that was the root cause of it not working out? Hopefully you've thought about it, but if not, give it a guess now. Great, Shauna. And I know this is a vulnerable question, because oftentimes it has something to do with us as the leader, right? That's why we're here. So Shauna says, I didn't know how to have them help me. Yep, I was uncertain of which tasks to delegate. Yes, I hear this all the time. Trouble following our process. They were still figuring out their path. Yeah, how not being sure what the right seat is. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, figuring out their skill set. Sometimes it's inexperience. Sometimes they don't know how to define their skill set. Okay, great. Yeah, not the right culture fit. Okay, great examples. Thank you for sharing those. So here's what we want to make sure doesn't happen moving forward for all of you. We want to make sure that the expectations that you set from the start are realistic. That it's kind of that idea of when you have a goal for yourself, you want to stretch yourself, but you don't want to set something that is so outlandish that on day 3 you're never going to hit that goal, right? So we want to make sure that we're setting realistic expectations for the team members' actual productivity levels. They're not going to be at max capacity by day 5 in your team. So making sure that we're kind of stair-stepping them in terms of what we're expecting from them, and that we are communicating very clearly. You've probably all heard the when we make assumptions, making an assumption makes an ass out of you and me. right? Don't make assumptions, particularly with new hires. You want to act like they do not know a thing, in a sense. Not that we're demeaning them, but we don't ever want to assume, oh, they understand. If I said that needs to be done quickly, they know that means an hour. Nope, they don't. Quickly to them might mean 48 hours, or it might be 2 weeks. So it's making sure that we are very clear in expectations, and that we're stepping them into the culture, into the role, into the responsibility. The other piece that we hear a lot, and this can be a generational thing, is the expectation of the type of initiative that a new team member might have. So we are all go-getters. Probably everyone on this call is, type A, highly driven. We've got grit. We've got a passion coming out our ears for what we're doing. Not everybody's at that level, right? Not everybody that we bring on is going to be operating at that level, at least not in the first couple of weeks or months. So making sure, again, that there's clear communication around where you want them to initiate and where they need to check with you first. So that there is often a disconnect between wanting team members to take the ball and run with it, and from the team member perspective, not feeling confident or empowered to do that. I think there's also just the idea, and this kind of came up, not having the plan. And you don't necessarily have to have a 100-page plan, right? But you do need to know what you want them to start taking ownership of when they need to check in with you. How often are you overseeing? How many things do you want them to do on their own and then bring to you? And also that timeline, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, right? We want to have good expectations at all those markers. When we don't, what happens is everybody's in this reactive mode, right? And we want, as a growth focused leader, and as a team managed company, we have to be in a proactive approach to all the things, the sales, the marketing, the client delivery, everything. The other sticky situation is typically that beautiful word, delegation. We all have a different definition of what it means. Many of us haven't really mapped out when we delegate what that actually means. It does not mean that you throw 10 tasks at someone and say, go get these done, right? And oftentimes, because we're in a rush, because we're trying to stay at the same speed that we were before the hire, we end up kind of throwing things at the new hire and expecting that they can just get it all done. That's not delegation. So delegation is a combination between leadership and empowerment to the individual. So really, instead of so what happens if we don't delegate correctly, then it goes back to what we talked about earlier. You come in and you have to fix it. And then you go back to, okay, why do I have someone here? I just had to take an extra hour or an extra day fixing what wasn't done correctly. And then we're quick to make that decision. Well, that must not be a right person. So delegation is can be kind of the make it or break it as we bring in team. So, okay. So the last thing I want to say here, and then I'm going to hand it over to Megan, is each individual is unique, right? And so as you're planning how to bring an individual in, you do want to make sure that there is a little bit of customization to it. Asking, even if it's not a full assessment of new hires, but finding out, how do they learn best? Are they have to be hands-on? Are they an individual who does need to observe? Do they do well reading instructions, or do they need video instruction? Finding out how their learning process can pair with your training process. So again, it can't necessarily be customized to every single team member, but that should be a part of your conversation. And again, that goes back to where communication is so important, always, but particularly in the beginning of the relationship. So those are just some of the general challenges that we see with business owners. And they're also the challenges that we have been able to help our clients overcome with the proper structure, with the proper systems, and with our approach and our methodology. So Megan, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about that.
Awesome. I'm so excited to dive into this section next. And before we do that, does everybody like to play games? I have a little bit of a game to play. And you get to play along in the chat. It's super simple. Just be really honest. We're not going to go tell anybody what you tell us in the chat. I have a series of questions, kind of like a little assessment, not for you to be alarmed by any stretch of the imagination, but more to bring awareness to your leadership, your team, your style. Like, do you actually have things set up so that if your company doubled or tripled, like you probably say you want it to next year, like, do you have people in place? Do you have systems and processes in place to actually be able to hold space for all of that and to deliver on all that without everything coming and crashing down? I think one of the things that all of us have probably said, and Elizabeth and I obviously hear it a lot from clients who we work with, it's that, we're saying, I want to double my business, or I want to triple my business next year. This is a really good timing. It's December. We're already all thinking about 2022. Some of you have already planned out your 2022. Look at that revenue goal, look at your client goals, look at, how many clients do you want to be working with in your various offers? And if you were like, do you actually have the right people in the right places, the right systems and processes and infrastructure already in place so that you can actually deliver on what you desire to bring in 2022? And those are just really honest questions that we have to ask ourselves. So you're going to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like, it is non-existent at all. This is like big pain point for me. 10 is like, I could go teach this. I could do this in my sleep. I do it in spades, and then, all the numbers in between. So my first question is, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in your leadership skills? Maybe even the way you feel about your leadership. I would actually say, I'll give you just a little bit of like kind of behind the scenes and what our clients tell us. I think Elizabeth and I have both been a little surprised at this because it wasn't top of mind. We're kind of thinking systems and structures and hiring, but people tell us all the time, once they start building a team, the thing they realized finally is that, oh my gosh, I did not realize I have got to work on my leadership skills, because they recognize that the reason why team largely isn't functioning the way they want team to function, again, it all starts with the leadership. So if you're going to rate yourself with your leadership skills, what would you give yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay, 3, 7, 6.5, 5, 8, perfect. Christine is a leadership coach. She better be up there. Christine Glein, you better be up there, leadership coach. Awesome. Okay, so we kind of have the spectrum there. All right, awesome. Second question. Can your team repeat back to you what your company vision is? So it's not, I'm just assuming anybody on my team knows what the vision is of my company or the mission, but could they actually say it to someone else? Scale of 1 to 10. Awesome, Renee. You are on it. Shauna, yes. Tamia, 4. And sometimes we think our team just knows because they're part of the team, but they don't actually know. Yes, they practice it. That's amazing. Alana, no. Okay. All right. Next question. Do you have clearly written roles and responsibilities for all of your team members? And everybody on the team knows everybody else's roles and responsibilities. So if I'm on a team, like I was on someone's team for 4 years, did I know my roles and responsibilities, and was it written out? And as a team member, or I guess that company owner, was she able to know that like I knew everybody else's roles and responsibilities, and it was written out somewhere, like in a Google Doc or a Dropbox somewhere? They know the real, no formal job description on deck for me in the next 2 weeks. Cool. They're written out, but they don't understand each other's. So that would be an area for improvement right there, Renee. That's awesome. Roles are written out, but there's no crossover knowledge. So this is a growth point right here for everybody. That right there. See, I love games. Like, it just brings so much awareness. Okay, my next question Do you have a strategic growth structure in place for your company? Like we could look at like maybe at least the next 90 days. So first quarter of 2022. And has it been clearly communicated to your team? Like, does your team, or is this meeting in place to happen in the next couple of weeks? Do they understand what the strategic growth plan or structure is going to look like over the next 90 days? Working on it now, Christine, yes. And has it been communicated with them? Because one of the things that we see and that we hear is our clients are telling us, I'm still flying by the seat of my pants. I still am winging it, even though they're making multiple six figures. I'm still figuring out what I'm doing like every 30 days. And then like, you know, it's sort of like on the team I was on for years, we would get these emails with subject lines that would have fire emojis and urgent written all caps. Now, as a team member, that is, it literally overstimulates the nervous system every time you see that email coming through from your boss, you know, fire emojis, urgent, required. And it was always things that we didn't have in our plans. And so your team, they may not say anything out loud, but it actually causes a great deal of anxiety and almost panic. And then if that's what we're creating in our team, they're not actually able to produce at a high level. Okay, working on this next year now, as in today. I know, but no one else does. Okay, great, Tamia. That's great to know. Okay, my next question. Are you and every single one of your team members on a weekly basis reporting on key metrics and numbers? Whatever you as a team have decided are our important metrics. Elizabeth and I call that a scorecard. Does everybody know like what key metrics they are reporting on a weekly basis? And it is actually being reported on in a team meeting so that everybody hears that and everybody is on the same page. Scale of 1 to 10, 1, it's not happening at all. 10, we're doing it like clockwork every single week. Awesome. I love you guys playing along and your honesty. This is so amazing. So amazing. It's what you're doing is you're showing yourself exactly where you have room for improvement and where you have room for tweaks. So you don't have to guess anymore. I love it. I love it. Thank you for playing. Okay. Only 2 more questions. Do you have, kind of asked this earlier, but let's record it here. Do you have the people and the systems and the infrastructure and the processes in place so that if your company doubled or tripled overnight in terms of number of clients coming in into whatever your offers are, can you handle it? Can the systems and the infrastructure, the foundational structure and the team you have in place, can you handle it? That's a really important question because I imagine your goals next year are quite larger than they were this year, right? So you've got growth goals next year. Can we actually withstand it? Building systems and processes as I go, yes. Today, no. Awesome. Anybody else? I only have one more question. No, good awareness. Okay, cool. Final question. I'm always shocked that people don't do this, especially those who have a pretty, successful business and have had a team for years. Are you having weekly team meetings with your whole team together, same day, same time, pretty much the same agenda every single week? Scale of 1 to 10. 1 would be, it's not happening at all. Like there's no team meetings. 10 would be exactly what I just said. Anything in between is like, sometimes we have them, sometimes we don't. I don't really know what I'm doing on the team meetings. We hear that a lot. So it's sort of like wishy-washy, but it looks like people are doing, we've got a lot of high numbers here. Tamia, maybe quarterly. So 2. Okay. Awesome. All right. So what that tells me is you are going to benefit from everything else we have to share today. And I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. So what I'm going to share with you it's the methodology that Elizabeth and I have come up with. It is 3 main phases, and in each phase, there are 4 pillars. And it literally is a solution to every single one of the problems you have mentioned in chat. And it is the solution to the game we just played and the assessment that you just gave yourselves. So if you scored yourself anything less than an 8 on any of these categories, we're giving you exactly what is going to bring those numbers up so that you can jump from 2s, 3s, and 4s up to 8s, 9s, and 10s if you were going to reassess yourself in the next 90 days. So we're going to give you exactly what that is. So phase number 1 is the legacy leadership clarity phase. So if you want to take some notes and jot these down so you kind of have a bit of a direction on how to input a solution here, now would be the time to do that. So phase 1 is the legacy leadership clarity phase. And here's what you want to cover in this phase. Here are the pillars. Elizabeth talked a little bit about this. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on it, but pillar 1, it is to know what your leadership style is. Know what your leadership style is. And also, I would recommend doing assessments, like either leadership assessments or personality assessments. We can give you, suggestions on that at another time with your team members so that you know, do I actually have this person in the right place? Part of what everybody needs on their team are implementers, people who are doers and implementers. And typically certain personalities are going to be better implementers and doers. Oftentimes that's like your INTJs. I happen to actually be an INTJ, but it's people who are very detail oriented. They follow through, they check the boxes, they know how to get stuff done. They probably are also a self-starter. They are probably an overachiever, but you don't really have to rein this person in and give them a whole lot of direction. They can actually become pretty doggone self-guided. So that is pillar number 1. What's your leadership style? And make sure we know that we've got people in the right positions, partially based on not just skill, but also personality. And maybe even their leadership style as well. Pillar number 2, we've also talked a little bit about, and that is knowing what your company vision is. But more than that, we often assume, using Elizabeth's words, lots of times we assume because we're running our company and these people are working for us, they just automatically know what our vision is. We may know what our vision is. You want to be casting vision on your team often. And that's actually one of the things that you want to bring up in your team meetings. You may not have an entire section in your agenda on, and now it's time for me to repeat what my vision statement is for the company, but you're constantly reminding your team of what the vision is, because when you do that, your team is going to feel like they have a greater purpose on the team, and they are part of something that is a lot bigger than them, and they are part of really building and leaving this legacy, and you'll get a whole lot more out of your team. Elizabeth and I coach our clients' teams. In one of our mastermind programs that we run together, our clients can invite their teams to those calls once a month. And that is actually one of the, I would say, most common pieces of feedback we have heard from team is that prior to doing all the team training we've been doing, they did not feel like they had purpose on the team they were on. And one of the things that we kind of worked with them on is making sure they knew what the company vision and mission was, and also knowing what the vision was and the goals were for themselves as individuals on the team and in the company. And the feedback we heard is, for the first time, I actually feel like I'm not just someone who's been tossed a bunch of tasks to do, and I don't really know why I'm doing it. I actually feel like I have a purpose and I matter to the greater good of the impact that we're making through this company and through the programs that we offer. So vision and casting vision over your team is really, really important. And I'll also combine with that, I saw this word in the comments and I was really pleased to see it. It is knowing what your company culture is and being able to identify, am I bringing people on my team right out of the gate who fit my company culture? And that's going to help not make, I'm just going to say it, bad hires. I'm a really big fan of hiring a little bit more for attitude and characteristics and values than I am someone who is already super duper skilled at the particular position I want them for, because someone with attitude and the right personality, someone who fits the culture, someone who fits the brand, someone who has certain values and characteristics, almost every single thing that can be done in your company, it is trainable and it is teachable. And you may not be the one teaching and training it. One of the things that Elizabeth and I both guide our clients to do, and we remind them often of this, because we often hear, I don't have time to train people. I need to bring someone in and they just need to know how to do it, which almost never works, by the way. But if you can bring someone in who will be a lifer for you, you can pay to put them in programs and courses to build the skills that they need if you do not have the skill set yourself. So just keep that in mind. But you also want to be setting the culture from the moment of onboarding and ensuring that you're bringing people on who fit the culture of your company, because that's going to trump their skill set every day of the week. Pillar number 3 in phase 1, which is legacy leadership clarity, it is ensuring that you have each department covered in your company with team. Now, all of you are at different places. So you may be the head of this department right now, some of them, and you may be doing all the work in that department. And then phase 2 is kind of like, I'm going to bring someone on and they're going to do part of it, and I'm probably still going to do part of it until I can kind of get this person fully leading that particular department, which isn't necessarily going to happen overnight. Let me share with you what those 5 are. And these are really the big 5 that you want to be thinking about hiring in, especially if you don't have it covered right now. So really be thinking about 2022 and which one of these 5 main departments am I kind of lacking right now? Or I feel like I'm the one grinding away at it and I don't have anybody fulfilling this role. So those 5 core departments are marketing, sales, client delivery, operations, and finance. I'll say those one more time. These are the 5 core pillars to scale, right? Marketing, sales, client delivery, operations, and finance. So sometimes people will start hiring first on the marketing and sales side, because we obviously know we don't have a business if we don't have marketing and sales constantly going. That means visibility, generating leads, moving people through a pipeline, nurturing those people, and then closing sales. If that's not happening, the company is going to either plateau or the company is going to slide backwards. So some people will hire for that first. Other people will hire more internal on the operation side, the admin side, the client delivery side, client experience, making sure that the infrastructure is in place so that when we turn the spigot on and more volume is coming in, we can actually withstand that. So it's going to be a little bit different just depending on what your goals are and what you currently have in place. But if you're going to kind of look at organizational chart, those are your big 5 that you want to make sure you've got covered with team and that you're moving in that direction. And then the last thing I'll say with that is obviously you want to make sure you're hiring the right person for the right position in one of those categories. And then again, we want to ensure that we're not putting ourselves in a position where we're managing people and emotions. Elizabeth and I can't stress that enough. Too many team leaders and CEOs are kind of positioning themselves in this place where you end up managing the people. And that leads to resentment, bitterness, blaming people on the team, even talking about team members behind their back. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to manage emotions and people. We want to manage agreements. You want to manage, what do you have on paper? What are the roles and responsibilities? What did you agree upon? What are they supposed to be doing on a weekly basis? What are the milestones they're supposed to be meeting? What are the metrics they're supposed to be reporting on a daily or weekly basis? And if it's not happening, all you have to do is go back to, this is the agreement. This is what we said you were going to do by when, and it's not happening. So how can I support you in making that happen? Versus just being like pissed off or angry because deadlines aren't being met. And then the last one here, I really love, this is the fourth pillar in the legacy leadership clarity phase. And that is knowing what your expectation is for the position you have just hired for. What we see happening so often is a CEO or company owner, you all, bring someone on who is actually being brought into a helper or an implementer role. So that is like level one, which is the lowest level. I just need somebody to help. I need somebody to help get things off my back. Someone who's coming in as a helper and kind of an implementer as well, they have to be told what to do. You have to tell them what to do. They have to get direction on a daily basis. Now, oftentimes we're bringing on helpers and implementers, but we're treating them like they are a manager, an owner, or a leader. And they're not either one of those things. Managers are like managing other people, and you don't really have to be a taskmaster with them. Owners and leaders, now you're getting into like they're a VP of marketing or they're the VP of sales. They have their own team of 5 or 6 people within your company. So that's probably what we see a lot of is we're hiring someone at a skill level of X, but expecting their skill level to be at Y. So you want to be really, really clear on at what level are you bringing someone in and what skill level are they at? Are they just a helper or an implementer? Which that's a lot of your VAs. That's a lot of your OBMs sometimes. That could even be oftentimes like your social media manager. You have to tell them what to do on a daily basis. And sometimes you even have to tell them how to do it, but you're basically giving them a task list on a daily basis. People at the level of helper and implementer, they are never going to be a self-starter, kind of, thinking for themselves all the things that your company needs and just take it upon themselves to put it out there. When I was on a team, I was brought onto a team already kind of at like an owner level. And I was trained from the very beginning, you treat your role here as if this was your company. So you almost imagine yourself like an intrapreneur, right? So I really did feel like I'm an entrepreneur inside of someone else's business. And if this was my company, how would I be making decisions on a daily basis? But I was trained to operate that way. Okay. So that's really, really important. All right. Phase two, which also has 4 pillars, is strategic growth structure. It is exactly what it sounds like. So let me run through each one of these pillars really quickly. Pillar number 1 in the strategic growth structure phase is everybody's favorite, one of my favorites, and Elizabeth's. It is 90-day planning. 90-day planning. So at this point in December, really and truly, you should have at minimum, what is your 90-day plan? What are the goals for January? What are the milestones we want to meet in January, February, and March? Reverse engineer it based on that. What are the metrics? Like, what are the metrics that my marketing person has to meet, or the person booking me for podcast guesting needs to meet, or the salesperson? How many consults should they be having so that we're actually reaching our goal? Your team should also know exactly what the 90-day plan is. They should know what are our main priorities and projects in January, February, and March. So what's the overall goal or goals as a company? What are we working towards? Reverse engineer it. That may be something you actually do with your team, right? So it may not be something you just do in a silo. It could be a team conversation, but your team needs to know what's our 90-day plan? What are the timelines? What are the timestamps? What are the milestones? I promise you, when you have a plan in place, nothing's ever going to go as planned. Nothing's ever going to go as planned. But I promise when you have a plan in place and some life happens or shit hits the fan or unexpected things happen or you don't hit goals or technology doesn't work, it's so much more easy to be agile and flexible because it doesn't throw your team for a loop. Your team, I promise you also, your team hates it when there's no plan in place. Your team wants to know what they're working towards, what the projects are, and they want to know what they should be focusing on a daily basis. And The 90-day planning is going to help you get out of feeling like you're like stumbling over your feet every day to try to get them to work on a daily basis with just things you're sort of putting on their plate. So that one's important. Pillar number 2 is make sure you have business and individual rocks. This one is really important. And I think oftentimes it's very easily overlooked because we are thinking about our businesses all the time. And we think, well, my team is here to help me grow my business and hit my goals. And to be really honest with you, team does not care half as much about your goals or the company goals than they do about their own individual goals. So yes, we must have company goals. And yes, our team is helping us reach those company goals. And we want to add to that. We also want them to have individual goals or rocks that they are also working towards. And you can find that out simply by talking to them and having more individual conversations and finding out what's important to them. So rather than telling them what their individual goal is, have a conversation with them one-on-one and find out what they want it to be, and then help them reach their individual goal. You'll get a whole lot more out of your team that way. Pillar number 3 is another one of our favorites. And this is scorecards and metrics. We love clearly metrics and numbers here and systems and processes. The reason why we like numbers and data so much in business is because they don't lie. They don't lie. And so much of business really is a numbers game. Yes, it's intuition. Yes, it's following your gut. Yes, it's honoring alignment and soul direction, Christine Glein. And at the same time, it is a numbers game. So we want to make certain that everybody on the team, you included, you know what numbers you are reporting on a daily and or weekly basis. And some of you are like, oh my gosh, they have to be like reporting numbers every single week. Yes. And here's the beauty of that. What that's also going to prevent is you getting to the end of a month or an end of a quarter being nowhere close to your annual goal, right? So when we look at numbers, we can easily kind of tweak things because you can easily figure out why is it not happening. And then we know what lever we need to pull. So every week and month, those metrics that are coming in from team members, we need to be able to say, hey, is this putting us on track or not for our Q1 goals or our 6-month goals or our annual goals? And every single month should be an indicator if we're on track or not. But we need to know what we're actually looking at. The way I want you to think about this, because I know what some of you may be thinking right now is, well, not everybody on my team is responsible for making money. They're not all responsible. They're not all closing sales. And so we think the salesperson is the only one who generates income for the company. I want you to start thinking about every single member of your team like they are a profit center, even if they're in helping you with client delivery and client experience. For instance, I'll give you an example. You could have people who are on the client experience side or client delivery side of your company, and they're responsible for retention. They could be responsible for retention and renewals and possibly even gathering referrals. It's a huge profit center for your company. And most business owners don't have time for that, or they're not thinking of that. That could be someone in client delivery or client services. It could be their responsibility, and that person is not part of marketing or sales. And then finally, putting all of that together, the scorecards, the metrics, the individual goals, the business goals, the 90-day planning, and then making sure you're actually having like a quarterly planning session every quarter in your business, and then an annual planning session every year with your entire team. All right. Final phase is effective people process. Final phase, phase number 3 is effective people process. I'm going to kind of combine pillars number 1 and 2. They're kind of one and the same. This has been, I tell you guys, this has been such a game changer. It's so simple, but it's been such a game changer for our clients and for their teams, and then obviously for their companies. And it is the need for a weekly team meeting. That is like, without a shadow of a doubt, if you're not having a weekly team meeting, that right there can be, you may not implement every single thing that we're teaching you here, but for starters, implement that. It's so simple to do. It's an easy one. have a weekly team meeting. Make sure you're having them every single week, the same day, the same time, and make sure there is an agenda for those team meetings. Again, I think I said this a few minutes ago. I'm always really shocked when I hear from people who have successful companies and have teams and have had teams for years. And the person just seems like totally stressed out all the time. And they still feel like they're just sort of winging it all the time. And I find out they don't even have weekly team meetings. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how are you running your company without a weekly team meeting? It's crazy. It's kind of like how we do everything. It's weekly team meetings. So make sure you're doing that. And again, make sure you have an agenda for that team meeting. Elizabeth and I actually teach a process on how to construct a proper agenda and what you should be focusing on in that team meeting. We teach this to our clients. In fact, we spent probably like 2 or 3 meetings in a row with our clients and their teams coming to the calls where we broke down the different elements of a team meeting, taught it to them, put them in breakout rooms together, and the leader actually simulated running that part of the team meeting on the calls. We did that a few calls in a row. It's been a game changer for our clients just to implement that one thing, and their teams love it. Pillar number 3 is effective communication. Effective communication. The really important thing to remember here to get the most out of your team and for them to really be increasing their productivity, for them to make fewer mistakes, for them to be on time with projects and with tasks inside of those projects or activities. It is to keep the lines of communication really open. And it goes beyond keeping lines of communication open between you and your team. You want to have transparency and trust built in among your entire team, not just between you and the individual team member, your entire team. That's why having the team meetings every week, reporting on certain metrics, having your team share, where am I at with this project? What did I complete last week? What have I completed so far this week? What am I going to complete next week? Where am I falling short? Where do I need support? What's working for me? What's not working for me? That's one of the conversations you want to have in your weekly team meetings, because everybody on the team gets to hear it. And when everybody on the team gets to hear from everybody else, and everybody on the team knows where we're at with projects, it opens up a greater level of trust and transparency among team members. And that impacts your company culture. And it's going to serve your company greatly to do that. When people don't feel that level of trust and transparency, they're going to hide things from you. They're not going to speak up. They're going to tell you everything's okay when it's not. You're not going to get a really great producer out of that person. They're not going to think beyond just the little tasks that they have to do in your company. And a lot of people don't even know why they're doing it or what those tasks are impacting at a greater level. And then finally, the 4th pillar, again, it may not be the sexiest sounding thing, but it is what really allows you to insert fun and freedom into your business and into your life. And that is the documentation of standard operating procedures, having a playbook in place or a handbook in place. Now, one thing I will share is that a lot of people think, I don't have time for that. You know, you're asking me to do all these things. I don't have time for that. I can't slow down in my business to go create an SOP. It's going to slow down revenue. Look, here's the truth. It could potentially slow you down like a fraction, but it's going to speed everything up. And here's the other thing. Your team can create the SOPs. But this is where you can't just say, hey, team, go create the SOP for this. That's probably not going to work. It's about having a conversation. It's about looking at, hey, what's the system that we keep duplicating over and over and over again? But bring the team member in on the conversation, talk to your team, and then kind of, mock up an outline of an SOP together and then say, hey, I want you to go finish this. I want you to go put this together. And then I want you to come back and I want you to report it to me and show it to me and show me your findings and present it to me. And then you can sign off on that. Or you can say, hey, what about this? What about that? And then have that person file it and keep track of that. Again, I'm always a little surprised when we as CEOs think I've got to do everything myself in my head. No, that's why your team is there. Your team is there to give you suggestions, to insert extra layers of creativity, and to also get things done. So I love having team members that I know are going to actually oversee that system. I love to have that person actually create it because they're the ones who are going to be implementing and using it. But you want to make sure that's also documented. The other reason why SOPs and systems are so critical is because that's what makes your company duplicatable. That's what makes everything repeatable. And that when everything's repeatable and duplicatable, that's what removes you from the grind. That's what removes you from the ground floor of your business, where you feel like you still have to be doing everything to keep the business growing to the next level. And it's going to allow you to step away and walk away. And when other people come in, it relieves you or other team members that leave from doing those things, and someone else can step in and implement what you already know is working. So those are really, really critical. Okay, so hopefully you all got so much out of today's masterclass. Any takeaways you have, go ahead and put them in the chat. If you are someone who you're not ready for team, you don't have a team, maybe you're not even at 6 figures yet, awesome. You're going to be ahead of the game because you just got all this information. For those of you who already are at 6 figures or higher than 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, even 7 figures, and you have team members in place, whether they're interns, contractors, part-time or full-time, doesn't matter. Elizabeth and I do have a really special invitation for you, and that is to join our program. It's a 90-day program called Take the Lead, and it is everything that we just shared with you today. So the pillars and the phases that I just walked us through, and I'll share those one more time: legacy leadership clarity, strategic growth structure, and the effective people process. That is the exact process that we are going to take you through over the course of 12 weeks. So if you took notes on each one of those 4 pillars in each one of those phases, including leadership assessment and leadership style, your company vision and legacy, and knowing how to cast that over your team so that they have a purpose, knowing what your company culture is, defining your organizational chart and ensuring that you've got support in each one of the main departments in your company, hiring the right people in the right positions, knowing what the roles and responsibilities are, establishing your 90-day planning structure, knowing what your business and also your individual team rocks are and how to communicate that to your team and how to keep track of that, developing your own company scorecard and company metrics, as well as individual metrics, knowing how to report on those and how to communicate with your team if things are falling through the cracks, mistakes are being made, things are happening. This is where a lot of nuances come in when it comes to communicating and dealing with team and managing your team. And then also we will teach you, how do I actually structure a team meeting? What is the agenda of that? What are the roles that I play? What are the roles that all my other team members play? Whether they're a contract, what if you have some interns, some contractors, people in different departments? One of the questions we get a lot from our clients is, I just don't know if certain team members even need to be on my team meeting. So, what do I do with them? Am I having multiple meetings? So we will cover all of that with you. And then of course, there will be time to talk to you about effectively communicating with your team members, setting boundaries, really guiding your team members to take initiative, properly training your team so that you're getting the most out of them and they're taking things off your plate. And then also taking a really good look at what are the systems and processes and SOPs that you already have them in place. Here's the thing I want you all to understand. If you've made it this far in your business, you have systems and you have processes. You probably just don't have them documented. And it's very overwhelming. I hear that word a lot. It's very overwhelming to think, I got to sit here and map out SOPs. It's not my zone of genius. I don't know how to do that, but they're literally so critical to the growth of your company. So our 12-week program is going to cover those 12 pillars exactly to the T. And our program obviously is designed to help you build that winning team and also remove you as the bottleneck so that you do see an increase in numbers. You see an increase in revenue, you see an increase in profitability, you see an increase in client retention, you see an increase in referrals, you see an increase in upsells. You also have more freedom to walk away from your business for a week. Or you can probably hear it in my voice, I've actually been sick for like a week and a half and literally couldn't do anything, like had to cancel almost everything in my business and could barely walk from one room to the next for about 10 days. You don't want to be, sick, worrying about everything that's not happening in your business when you need to be focusing on getting well, especially if you have families and you've got kids and you want to go do other things like travel and spend time with the people who you love the most. We want to make sure that you're structuring your business and the systems and the infrastructure and the team so that, like Elizabeth said, you are really developing a company that can be managed by your team. There's a way I want you to really think about this, and what we're ultimately helping you do is we are removing you from being the business and we're positioning you in the position of running your organization. Like that is actually something I would write down on your notes. Are you being the business, which means you've got to be there to execute on everything. In order for marketing and sales to happen, it's you. And in order to deliver everything you sold, it's you. If everything is you right now, and you could not walk away from your business for even a week, then you are being the business still. And we want to start moving you in the direction of running your organization so that your business isn't all consuming and completely taking over your life. So in terms of what's included, I'll run through that really quickly. Number one, you just got the 12 pieces of content that we're going to be teaching you every single week in the program. We will probably do it in that order because one thing builds on the next. We're going to have a live call every single week. Our live call will be about 90 minutes. We'll do about 60 minutes of training, and then we will have time for Q&A. We're also going to have pre-work for you to do. So you'll have a new client questionnaire. We're going to give you a leadership assessment, and we're also going to take a look at your business and do a business audit, or you're going to be doing a business audit. Then we can take a look at that. So we really know where you need the most support when it comes to your team. All of our calls will be recorded for anytime listening, and you'll have access to those. We're also going to offer 2 times a month an office hours calls. Sometimes people have questions in between training calls. We want to give that availability to you. So we're going to have twice monthly office hours calls for you to come and get coached, ask your questions. We're also going to have a couple of calls, probably one a month, where it's just a collaboration and connection call. The people who are going to be in this program are people who you are going to want to know. You may want to do networking with them, set up strategic partnerships with them. You may even become each other's clients. Great networking opportunities, sharing of resources, and we want to make that available to you. We'll also have a Slack community where we will be able to communicate with each other outside of all of our calls. You can ask questions about the topics that we're teaching in the program, and then we'll also distribute any templates, any documentation, any materials that are going to benefit you. You'll also be provided with that. In terms of the investment for the 90-day program, we are only taking 10 people. So this is going to be intimate. This is going to be exclusive. So only 10 people. We start in February. It is $5,000 paid in full for the investment, or 3 equal payments of $1,835. And if you join us by December 31st, you're also going to get a bonus one-on-one coaching session with either myself or Elizabeth, specifically on your greatest need in your company as it relates to systems, infrastructure, or team. So that bonus totally goes away once we head into the new year. So if you join by December 31st, free coaching session with one of us, $5,000 in full, or 3 equal payments of $1,835. I do want to note, this is our first round pricing. So this is the only time, and this is the last time that it will be this investment level because we are running this program for the first time, and it's also live. So you're going to get a lot of our time and attention during this first round. So if you would like to build a winning team, clean up some of the things that you have identified today that you are newly aware of, and remove yourself as a bottleneck and see greater productivity and profits, this is a perfect fit for you. Elizabeth, any words from you over there?
Yeah, well, hopefully you guys can sense the excitement that we have working with business owners and working in this container. So I did want to just there was a question. I was kind of going back and forth, but whether your team, it doesn't matter if it consists of independent contractors or a mix of part-time or interns, like all of what we work on with you guys in this program, because we're keeping it at the size of 10, we're going to be able to address all of that and really kind of help you figure out like what actually is the right path. Should I keep doing contract employees? Should I start moving to a part-time? So this program will address all the types of team members that you might have or might be considering. So I know that is something that as a business owner, it can be hard to decide which direction do I go. And you might have, a variety of types of team members. So I just wanted to make sure that I answered that question. The good news is that things are not that different. So regardless of whether it's a contractor, independent contractor, majority of what you are doing will stay the same. And then I just wanted to thank you guys for being engaged. Sometimes you do trainings and you don't know if anyone's actually listening or people are what you're saying is landing. You guys have been great. You've been transparent. You've been vulnerable and answering some questions. Just want to applaud you on that. And we really look forward to the opportunity. Anybody that wants to jump on a call, Megan just drops the link in there. Go ahead and schedule a call. One or both of us will jump on, answer questions, give you a little bit more background on us if that's helpful. So thank you for your time. I know this is a busy week for a lot of business owners tying up loose ends. So really enjoyed spending the time with you all.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.